I'm an academic myself, and as an academic, I kind of like to let my clients locate everything in history, because I think it's really important to understand, where you've come from, so that you really do get a gauge on why all of this stuff is important anyway. And I think before there was an LGBT community, what it meant to be gay, and in some respects what it does mean to be gay, lesbian, or bisexual in society, some of that stuff still prevails. But we were not a community, we were a disparate group of individuals who were seen as ungodly, unnatural, not fit to be parents. We were called pedophiles, we were called all kinds of different things. And at a time when there was no like-for-like type of engagement as far as community, it was really very difficult. And this is in the United States, where there were laws that had gender-specific requirements. So if you were not wearing at least 3 items of gender-specific clothing, you could be arrested. And this was, in the 50s and the 60s. So Judy Garland dies in 1969, and the way that a lot of the nightclubs and the bars, and these were the only places that were really underground where lesbian, gay, and bisexual people could actually kind of come together. The way that the bars kind of worked in New York and also in Los Angeles and San Francisco was that they were owned by the mob. And so what they would do, with the police very much in their pockets, would, when they wanted to take down a rival mobster, they would call the police and have that bar raided and this bar raided. And the night Judy Garland died, they decided, that they were going to raid the Stonewall Inn on Christopher Street. The wrong night to do that, because that one pivotal moment was when we stopped becoming or stopped being, rather, a disparate group of individuals, and we became a community. And it very much was lesbians, gay men, bisexuals. It was the trans community fighting for days, and straight allies fighting for days, because we got tired of being treated that way. Flash forward 20 years in the UK, Section 28 came out. And out here, it was this piece of legislation that had a line in it that said it's illegal to now, talk about and promote homosexuality in public. But what that meant was it's illegal, and you can't talk about being gay. So it had a lot of different effects on the way people experience life. So, for instance, when young people were being homophobically bullied in schools, and teachers, could have lost their job if they helped. So over that time, that then became, the prevailing attitude is that homosexuality and being gay is wrong. You saw such a disparity between the things that you got by being part of the straight community versus the things that you were allowed to do by being gay, just because of who you loved, which you didn't have a choice over. The only choice you had was either to not be yourself or to lie. And I think when Stonewall started, it was very much a grassroots reaction to a lot of the legislative and social inequalities that were going on. And it was celebrity driven. There was Ian McKellen and Michael Cashman and a couple of others that were there, along with members of the community. And over the years, Stonewall as an organization has been very instrumental in changing the legislative landscape of the UK. I mean, we very much, as a lobbying organization, primarily, changed the government's ideas about things like gay people serving in the military openly. So we got that kicked out. We got Section 28 kicked out. We brought in protection in the workplace for people who were gay, lesbian, and bisexual, because up until 2003 in this country, you could be fired or not hired or not promoted if someone found out you were gay. That's 2003. 2005, civil partnership came through, and I think for businesses what that meant was the term family, the term partner, all of a sudden meant us. And so businesses were freaking out because things like benefits policies and all of those things, they had to get their minds around it. We brought in things like adoption rights, embryology and fertilization, parental rights. We brought in things like, kicking out the fact that we should be able to access goods, facilities, and services equal to everybody else. So that, me and a partner, I'm single, but if me and a partner were to go to a B&B, we would be allowed to stay there. B&B owners, were using a lot of different things to say that because of their objection to our relationships, they didn't want us to stay, in their businesses. Yet they'd happily have 10 guys on a stag do stay. The only difference is they objected to who we are. Now, we're looking at equal marriage, and I think beyond just the legislation, we recognize that hopefully as an organization we would get all of the legislative equality. And laws do a couple of things. They drop something in your lap that says what was accepted yesterday now isn't. But it doesn't mean that people understand what that means. It doesn't necessarily mean that they believe any different than they did yesterday. And so unfortunately, for businesses, for education institutions, and for groups like us, it becomes paramount that we educate people as to what that means for us in the context of working here. And that's why policy and wording and language and training and all of that stuff is so paramount. So Stonewall's, yes, a lobbying organization, but we changed looking at the ways that we needed to educate. So we have an Education for All team that works with teachers. We work with local authorities. We work with individual schools. We work with young people to stop homophobic bullying, to educate teachers in their responsibilities, but also the strength that they've got. And we work with curriculum makers to make sure that we, as a whole subset of the population, aren't invisible anymore. And we do a lot of different things in the workplace team. Like I said, we help businesses manage. We're strategic about it. We don't just help you to create network groups and change cultures. We actually look at your visions for the next 5, 10 years. Who are you as a business, and what does diversity and equality help you do as a critical business driver to mainstream this stuff? And I guess going forward, who knows? I think we've started to do a few things like the Workplace Equality Index, which is the only national benchmarking tool that really looks at sexual orientation specifically, because we recognize that there were any number of benchmarking exercises that organizations could do that had to do with diversity, where they could be super high-level, gold standard achieving and not once have to mention sexual orientation. And could you imagine being considered completely awesome at diversity and not have to do anything for disability or for ethnicity or for gender? And it boggles the mind, but that's where it's at. So that's why we fight as hard as we do, and that's why organizations like you guys are so amazing, because we only work with 635 organizations. There are thousands in this country. So where's everybody else? All I'm saying is this: as an organization, we've been very fortunate that we've had the support of individuals, we've had the support of businesses who stopped being afraid of what it might mean for their bottom line to be associated with gay people publicly. And we've also really helped a lot of businesses to understand that if 6 to 10%, I think it's more, of the population is accepted as LGB, that means that there's a whole lot of people who aren't. And if homophobia was something that gay people could have gotten rid of on our own, it would have been done by now. We need straight people, and we need people who are not like us to be allies to fight for that. Do you think that we got civil partnership because we voted on it? We got that because straight people decided to vote on it as well. And I think that is one of the most powerful things about what we do, is we're making it, yes, about lesbian, gay, and bisexual equality, but we're also helping straight people to understand their relationship to sexual orientation, so that it's not just a message for gay people, it's a message for everybody about these issues.